What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In this video today, we're going to do a crash course on the yfinance package in Python, which means the package that allows us to interact with the Yahoo Finance API. I have used this package in multiple videos before, but today we're going to go deep. We're going to explore the different classes and attributes and functions that this package has to offer. So this is going to be super interesting for everyone who's interested in finance. If you like this video, let me know by hitting a like button and subscribing. But now let us get right into it. Alright, so we're going to take a look at the yfinance package today. I have used it in multiple tutorials on this channel already, but for the most part, we just downloaded stock data with this package. We didn't explore all the different features of it, which is what we're going to do today. We're going to go deep into it and see what it's capable of. So let us get right into it. I'm going to go into my tutorial directory. Here I'm going to set up everything. Let me just make sure we remove everything from previous sessions here. So I have a blank directory. And in this blank directory now, I'm going to initialize a project. Now, you can work with your ordinary Python installation if you want to. So if you have Python on your system and you have pip on your system, you can install packages by saying pip or pip3 install and then the package name. Obviously, today, yfinance is going to be an important one. In my case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the UV package manager to initialize a project, and then I'm going to add the packages using UV add, not using pip install. The only difference is I'm going to use a Rust-based package manager versus the default one, and it's also going to be local to this specific directory. You don't have to do that. You can do that if you want to. So I'm going to say UV init here and then UV add. Again, whatever I do with UV add, you can do with pip install. We're going to need the yfinance package. We're going to need pandas, which is maybe even a dependency already. And then also we're going to use Jupyter Lab. This is going to be our development environment, so the thing that we code in basically. So just install these dependencies with pip install yfinance pandas and Jupyter Lab. And then what we can do is we can say UV run Jupyter and then space lab, or in your case, if you're not using Jupyter Lab, if you're not using UV, you can just do Jupyter Lab like this. But in my case, UV run Jupyter Lab. This is going to open up Jupyter Lab in the browser. So this opens now on my second screen, a browser, and here we have this interactive Python notebook environment. What can we do here? We can create Jupyter notebooks or interactive Python notebooks. So let's call this one main IPYNB, for example. And the difference between a notebook and an ordinary Python script is that we don't have to run all of the code from top to bottom. I don't just have a single script where I have to run all the instructions. I can run individual cells. So for example, I can say a equals 10 in this cell. Then I can print the value of a down here. In another cell, I can say a is 20 now. And then I have the ability to run a cell above that independently. And now I can say print a is 20. So this does not have to happen every time from top to bottom. We can run individual cells of code, which makes a lot of sense when we explore stuff, when we do data science, machine learning, or also work with data sets in general, which is what we're going to do with financial data here. So let us get started with the very basics. How do we work with yfinance? How do we work with this package? We say import yfinance, and then usually we use the alias yf. This is just a different way to write the package. So whatever I do now, I can say yf dot and then some functionality of the yfinance package. Now, the most basic thing that you're going to use here is the ticker class. So yf.ticker allows us to create a ticker object based on a ticker symbol. So for example, I can go with Apple. AAPL is the ticker symbol for the Apple stock. And what I can do now is I can run this and then I get a ticker object. So this is now an object, and this object has many attributes. Now, if I want to see what all the different attributes are, I can use two question marks here in Jupyter Lab. And I can say yf.ticker. And this is going to give me all the things that I can do, all the properties that I can access in such a ticker object. We're of course not going to look at all of them, but there's some interesting ones that are very important. Now, one thing that you can do is you can get the info. So let's save this one here into a ticker. Now I needed to quickly enable my Vim bindings here because otherwise I can't code. So let's go and do this again. Ticker is equal to yf.ticker, AAPL. And then I can just access this ticker object here as before. And now I can say ticker.info, for example. So this info object is quite comprehensive. We have a lot of stuff here. We have the address of the company, the city, the state, the zip code. We have the official website. We have the industry, the sector. We have a long business summary. We have a list of employees. So we actually have like title, and we have a name and everything about the individual people. So a lot of these things that I'm going to show you today are useful in a lot of different scenarios. So maybe you have some annual report analysis tool, maybe you have some option screener, maybe you want to build a technical analysis software, charting software, whatever you want to do with this, you have to use different parts of yfinance. You're not going to use everything, but maybe you just want to analyze a company for value investing or something, and you're interested in all the key people, so you can extract them here from this info object. You can take a look, maybe you can look up some dictionary, or not dictionary, some wiki or some website for more information about that person. Maybe you have certain criteria, but the info object is quite comprehensive. You can see basically all the key statistics here as well. So the forward PE ratio, you can see also open, high. I think you can see open, high, low, close here as well. You can see the EPS, the earnings per share and everything. So this contains like basically all the important information in one object. And of course you can access this as a dictionary. So you can just take the info object and go and say, I'm interested in the zip code. By doing this, you can do that. You just need to take care. So sometimes you have a list of employees, I think. Yeah, you have company officers, then you would have to access that, and then you would have to access the first index, for example, to get Tim Cook. And depending on what you're interested in, so I think, for example, I can go forward PE ratio. I can just go ticker, info, forward PE, and I get the forward PE ratio of Apple. So that is a very useful attribute that we can use for a ticker. Also, in addition to that, maybe you just don't want to have the hard facts, you want to have analyst opinions. So what you can do in this case is you can say ticker and then analyst price targets, and then you can see what the price targets are of the various analysts. You get it in an aggregated way. So basically the current price, and you get the highest price target, the lowest price target, the mean and the median. So you can kind of see where investors are heading with this, or analysts, I should say. And then you can also get access to different types of documents like balance sheets and cash flow statements and everything. So I can go and say ticker and then quarterly balance sheet, for example. And this will give me a data frame, a pandas data frame, which is the balance sheet. So I can see here assets, liabilities and everything. I can also, of course, print everything by changing the pandas settings here for displaying rows. But that's one thing I can do. I can also just type core, and then you can see quarterly cash flow, quarterly earnings, financials, income statement. We can just take a look at all of this here and do fundamental analysis of a company. We can do that in an automated way. You can build tooling around this, but this is like the backbone of a financial application that you can build. You just get the information as pandas data frames, and you can easily then process it in a next step. Also, moving away from numbers, what we can do is we can take a look at news. I can go and say ticker.news, and I can get headlines with links of what is happening in the Apple world or related to Apple. So I get, again, a list of dictionaries with IDs, with content. I get a title, I get a summary of what is happening here. I also get a thumbnail if I want to build some tooling around this to maybe do some sort of analysis dashboard where I get all the news articles listed, and I also get articles, or I also get links to the article itself. And then maybe the last thing I want to show here for the ticker is the calendar. So we can also take a look at upcoming events related to Apple. So I can go and say ticker.calendar, and this is going to show me that the next earnings reports, for example, is going to be on the 30th of April 2026. Then we can also see here the expectations for the earnings and for the revenue and everything. But you can see interesting dates related to a company by using the calendar attribute. But what we most of the time use yfinance for is to get actual stock prices. So how do we do that? We still use the ticker symbol. We use the history. So by saying ticker.history, we can also specify a period, and a period can be in years and months and days and a number. So I can say the last 6 days by saying 6D. Typing that will give me the last 6 days, market days, with open, high, low, close, volume, dividends, and stock splits. And this is the typical thing that you would use for a candlestick chart. You have OHLC, you have the volume, you can do like a subchart below the candlestick chart. That's like your basic information for doing technical analysis. And you can do that for different time periods. As I said, you can go here and say 10 months, 10 MO. That is going to give me 10 months of data, 209 rows. I can also say, for example, 2 years. And I think if I go too far, like I don't know how old Apple is, but it's definitely not 40 years old. In this case, okay, this one is too large. So in this case, I would say max, and max would give me just all the stock data available for Apple, which is 1980. It's even more than 40 years actually. So that is like the typical thing that we would use for some charts. Now, I don't think I have matplotlib here now, but what you would do is you would say something like prices or price is equal to, and then you would actually say that this is your data frame. Data frame is equal to that, and then the price is df close, and whatever you want to do, then you would do some plotting or you would do some technical analysis with it. This is like the main thing that you would use yfinance for, to get the prices of stocks. But the yfinance package is not only about stock prices. You can also take a look at option chains. So what we can do is we can get a ticker and we can say dot option chain. This will give us the entire option chain. So all puts, all calls for all expiration dates with all strike prices. But we can also narrow it down by saying dot options. So that is going to give us the expiration dates. These are the possible expiration dates that we can look at. And then I can say option chain, and I can get from the option chain a specific expiration date. So we just call this basically, and we can say ticker options. I'm just gonna pass it here like this now. The first one, which is 2026, 17th of April. So I can run this, and then we get a very large object here with all the calls and puts and all the strike prices. But I can also say, for example, I'm only interested in the calls. I can say dot calls, and then I will get a clean pandas data frame with the calls. So we can see the different strike prices here and everything with the bid and ask and the last price. And this is what you could use, for example, to build an option screener. And of course, you can do the same thing with puts. That's also possible. Now, if we choose to not pass a company, but an index or a fund as the ticker symbol, we can get additional information. So I'm going to copy this here down below, YF ticker, but instead of AAPL, we're going to do now SPY. For the S&P 500. So by doing that, first of all, this also works. So I can also go and say history here and get the historic prices. That also works. But what I can also do is I can get funds data. So I can say actually, not deleting all of this here, but I can say actually dot funds data. This is now an object, and from this funds data, I can get a bunch of different things. For example, SPY, S&P 500, I want to know how much the different sectors weigh into the index. So I can say sector weightings, and then I can see, this is not sorted by the way, 33% of the S&P 500 is based on technology. Then 1.9% based on real estate, 10% on communication services. Financial services is 12%, and so on and so forth. I can see the different sectors and see if this is maybe too much. I can also do the same thing for the NASDAQ 100, QQQ, and there I will see that over 50% is technology. So that is very risky if you don't believe that technology is going to keep driving the economy forward. Now, by the way, none of this is financial advice. I have zero clue what I'm talking about when it comes to finance. I'm a programmer. But yeah, I'm just showing you the tooling here. Don't take this as financial advice, whatever I say here today. I'm not a financial professional, but essentially you could use that to analyze the, in a pie chart maybe with matplotlib, you could analyze that and see, okay, it's very heavily relying on technology. If technology experiences like some bubble burst or something, maybe that's not the best thing to be invested in. But also if I'm interested in specific companies, I can say top holdings. So funds data, top holdings. This is going to show me that NVIDIA, for example, makes up 8.6% of the S&P 500, Apple 7.6%, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, Meta, Walmart, and so on. So that is also something. We can also just get a description. What is this this thing? Actually, not S&P 500, sorry, it's the NASDAQ at this point. But basically it gives you a short description of what the NASDAQ is, NASDAQ 100. So this is basically a fund that mirrors that. If I may for a second, I would like to plug myself in as the sponsor of my own video. If you go to my website, neural9.com, you will find a tab services and a tab tutoring. Here you can hire me for all sorts of stuff like data science, machine learning, web development. If you need help with something in a project, here you can book me for one-on-one tutoring if you want me to teach you personally something that you don't understand. If you like my teaching style, on both pages at the bottom, you can contact me via mail and also via LinkedIn. Just wanted to let you know about this. So the next thing I want to show you is how to work with multiple tickers at once. Up until this point, we've only used yf.ticker. We can also use yf.tickers, plural. And then we can pass a list of companies. So AAPL, for example, GOOG MSFT, and so on. And then we would get a tickers object. And here I can also do something like history and get the stock prices. But then you can see it has a multi-column index. So we have here the close price, Apple, Google, Microsoft, dividends, Apple, Google, Microsoft, high, Apple, Google, Microsoft, and so on. So if you want it like this, you can do it like this. You can also just go and say .tickers. This is going to give you the tickers objects. And then you can say, for example, I only want to get the Microsoft data. And then you basically have an individual ticker object again, and you can call history on this one, same as in the very beginning. Now, if you're only interested in the prices, you don't want to have the info and everything, because as I said, these are ticker objects. So I can also go and say .info. If I'm only interested in the prices, I can also use the yfinance download function. So I can say yf.download, and I can specify here, again, multiple tickers, AAPL, and then MSFT. And then I can just run this, and this will give me directly a data frame just with the prices. So that's the easy, lightweight version of that. If you're not interested in the news and the balance sheets and everything, if you just want to have the stock data, the price data, then you can use yf.download. Next, I want to talk about general market data. What we can do is we can analyze entire markets, not just individual indices or companies. So what I can do is I can say yf.market. And then I can pass a market. A market would be something like US or Europe. So if I say US, you can see I have a market here that is US, and then I can get .market. This is going to show me the market again. I can also get .status. So is it open? Is it closed? What is happening right now? And you can see here when it opens and when it closes. You can also see here market will open. And also we have a summary. This is basically a bunch of information about this market. Specifically, we can see the various indices. So we can see here CME, CBT, CXI, CMX. So these are, as far as I understand it, the individual indices. You can also do that here with cryptocurrencies, but this is an object that allows you to just get a summary and the status of an entire market. The same thing can be done with sector and industry. So I can also create an object yfinance.sector, and the sector would be more general, like technology, for example. So I can say my sector that I'm interested in here is technology. This will give me a sector object. And with this object, I can say, for example, I'm interested in all the industries of the sector. And then you would see that this is a list of semiconductors, software infrastructure, software application, computer hardware, and so on. But there's also other stuff that I can take a look at. For example, top companies in this sector. Then I would see, okay, the biggest ones are probably NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft, the stuff that you also find very highly represented in the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. Same with top ETFs. What do I do if I want to invest into technology? There's the Vanguard Information Tech ETF. There is the iShares US Technology ETF. So if you know that there's a sector or an industry that you're interested in, you can just take a look at top ETFs like this as well. And then if you want to go into a specific industry, let's list them again here, industries of technology. Then what I can do is I can say yf.industry, and I can pass the name, for example, semiconductors. And then I have this object, and then here I can go again, top companies. Obviously, NVIDIA is going to be here as well. Then top ETFs would be now very specific. No, actually, they don't have a top ETFs for the industry. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Didn't try that. But basically, you can find different companies. You can also see the sector above that industry. If you know that semiconductors is the industry, you can also take a look at the sector above it, which is technology. So that's kind of nice to explore the different parts of the economic landscape, if you want to call it that, company landscape. Another object that is very useful is the calendar object. So I can go and say yf.calendars. And here now I can look for certain types of events. And how this works is I first of all provide a start date. So let's say I'm interested in everything from 2026, 1st of January, or let's make it more narrow. Let's say 1st of April up until the 1st of May. So 2026, May 1st. This is the time frame. And as a result of that, I'm going to get calendars. So that is now an object. And here I can get different sorts of calendars. So if I use the autocomplete, I can get earnings calendar. This is going to show me all the earning earning dates for the specific company. So Google, for example, has the earning, or had in this case, let me see. No, it's in the future. Google has the Q1 earnings announcement on the 29th of April, for example. And you can see all the different ones here. We also have stuff like economic events. So that would be, I'm not entirely sure what this is actually, probably some like interest rates going up and down, or some inflation announcement, or I'm not entirely sure. I'm not too much of an expert here. But then we also have stuff like IPO, so initial public offerings, when companies go public. If you know some of these, this could be interesting to you. And then we also have like stock splits, which happen quite frequently, as it seems. But you can see when a stock split happens and what's going to happen. And also, if you don't want to just look at individual ones, you can say calendars.calendars, and then you get everything in one large non-displayable dictionary data frame sort of thing. Then we also have the capability to look up stuff and to search stuff. So I can say yf.lookup. Lookup is more lightweight because it literally just gives us the tickers. What can I look up? For example, I can say Apple. This is going to give me a lookup object, and then I can get the stock, for example. So just stock, and this is going to give me the stocks that are related to my search term, lookup term, Apple. AAPL is going to be the first one, but there's also other stuff like probably Apple real estate or something. So you can do that for lookup, but this is not going to give you the actual objects. If you want the actual objects, you can do search and the same thing. So search and then Apple. And maybe we should limit this here to have max results equal to 5. And news count equal to 3, but that is going to now give us, let's save this in results. We can take a look now at the quotes, and then we get the individual ticker symbols and the exchanges and the score and everything. But we also get news articles. So if I say results.news, we can get a bunch of news articles here, limited to 3 in this case, because I provided the keyword argument, only 5 quotes here and 3 news articles. But that is a more comprehensive search. This is just a lookup to give you the ticker symbols. And of course, you don't have to use just stock. You can also go with specific other things. So you can go with cryptocurrency or future, or you can just get all the search results, all the lookup results of all the different categories. And then you get a long list here. Now, if you want some more advanced query logic, what you can do is you can also provide specific filters and specific conditions. So for this, I'm going to import from yfinance, import the equity query, and I will say Q is equal to equity query, and then I can craft an object here. So I can say that my first logical operator will be an AND. So I'm gonna say all of these are a requirement, and then in here I'm gonna do more equity queries. So these are going to be conditions. I'm gonna logically combine them with an AND, so they're all going to be necessary. This one is gonna be equals, so I wanna have the following thing to be true, and I'm gonna have a list where I'm gonna pass region and US. So I'm enforcing the region of what I ever are gonna get back is going to be in the United States. And then I can say greater than, and then percent, was it percentage or percent change? No, percent change has to be greater than 3. That would be my second condition. And I can combine them now into a query. And then to actually get the results, I can say yfinance.screen. So now I'm going to apply these by passing Q. I'm gonna sort based on the percent change, and I'm going to sort in descending order. So sort ascending is going to be equal to false. That's going to return results. And now we have the equities, like the ticker symbols that match my criteria. So this is kind of nice because you can combine these like Lego bricks. Basically, you have this condition, you can do logical and logical or, and it allows you to build a very customizable stock screener. But these results are kind of hard to read. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy paste a simpler segment. We basically just iterate over the quotes, and then we print symbol, display name, and regular market change percent. And then you can see we get the ticker symbols, we get the name, and we get the percentage change. All right, so now we get to the more technically advanced stuff, which is live streaming market data. How can we use WebSockets to get live information while the script is running? We can do that with WebSockets. So for this, I'm going to say WS is equal to yfinance WebSocket, and then I'm just going to subscribe to something. So WebSocket subscribe, and we can pass a certain list of ticker symbols. So for example, AAPL, MSFT, NVDA. And then I basically have to connect this to some kind of function that does something. I want to print stuff, so I'm just going to pass the print function. So I'm going to say WebSocket listen and then print. So print basically as a function object. So it calls print with whatever message it gets. And now I can see that I get events coming in. I'm not doing anything. We're getting new events all the time, new quotes, new prices for Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia in real time. This is what you would use to build some real-time stock trading, stock analysis application. Now, for the sake of completeness, here's also the asynchronous example. We cannot run this one in a Jupyter notebook because this will give me an error here that it cannot be called from a running event loop because we have an interactive environment here. But here you would use the async WebSocket and the rest stays the same. Now, in this case, we don't need to do that. We can just do, I'm not sure if we can actually do it here with print or if it has to be an asynchronous function. So maybe we have to do it like this. Let's keep it. But that would be the asynchronous version of that. And now last but not least, the last example is also something I'm going to copy paste. It's more technical and more an aspect if you're building this on a larger scale. You can also provide a proxy. So if you want to use maybe multiple instances, if you have a more sophisticated system, you can provide proxy servers. In this case here, I just specified localhost. It's not going to work. But if you have some professional proxy provider like Bright Data, for example, or something similar, then you would be able to, probably you would have HTTPS here, I'm not sure. But you could actually just provide proxies and everything would be routed through them. This is how you do it. And then you can just use yfinance as before. So that's it for this video today. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting a like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. Also, in case you're interested, on my website, you will find a services tab and a tutoring tab. There you can contact me if you need help with a project, some consultation, some freelancer for your project, for your startup, whatever. You can contact me at the bottom of the pages via LinkedIn or email. Besides that, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you much for watching, see you in the next video, and bye.